holidays from the Cellar. And about that phrase, happy holidays, I recently learned that there's 14 different holidays between Thanksgiving and about midway or two-thirds of the way through January. So really, when you think about it, you're covering them all. You don't have to know which particular holidays the person you say this to. They're not slighting your holiday. They're not taking Christ out of. They're trying to be inclusive. Hey, whatever you celebrate, hope you have a good one. So anyway, there'll be a special announcement at the end of this episode. So stay tuned for that. So let's roll. It amazes me that I can sit here and listen to TSR employee number one with so much experience and stories. Somehow this isn't one of the biggest D&T channels on YouTube. People need to share this channel on social media. Let your friends know. Hey, that'd be lovely. That'd be great. Share it all over. Just go see it, get that frontispiece, click share, and send it to all your buddies, all your friends, all your girlfriends, all your boyfriends, all your friends of whatever stripe and denomination or inclination. Yeah. I mean, I've got 3,000 subscribers, but we don't get a fraction of that, but a fraction of that in views. And I guess I'm apparently not all that interesting all that often. Glad to hear D20 Delving will be out soon. Yes. I may actually, well, I don't think I'm going to have a copy of it in my hands by Christmas. Because I'm doing this on the winter solstice. I wish you the best. Tonight was the winter solstice about, let's see, when was it? 25 minutes ago. And, it's not anything you can feel or see or go out and look at in the sky, but it is the transition from the autumn to the winter. And, I've always thought that was a good transition. I've always enjoyed winter. I really have. As a kid, I did. As when I was in school, I ice skated a lot during the winter. It was a social thing to do. And I liked to toboggan. Let's see. Glad to hear D20 Delving will be out soon. Happy to hear the Curse of the Weaver Queen is finally close to fulfillment. Then the Lost Adventures, my shelves filling with cask works. Well, to be honest, the only part of D20 Delving I had was with the reading of the cards and the wording of the cards. The game design is purely Don Samora and Wizard Tower Games. So, let me make that clear. I don't take any credit for any of the game design. It's a good design, and I'd be cheating him if I did. He did it on his own. And yeah, maybe one of these days we'll see the Curse of the Weaver Queen. God knows. It's been a long time coming. Happy holidays, everyone. I've just read 2 great books that suit each other well. Slaying the Dragon, History of TSR. That is a good book. And Dice Men, The Early History of Games Workshop, which I have not read. And apparently there's a good photo of me and Dice Man even. Well, okay. That was probably when Ian and a couple people, probably from that period when they came over to TSR, and we were all much different looking people, I would imagine. Okay, the school club's on a hiatus for the holiday break. But the Waterdeep campaign left off planning the theft of a boat to pay for the purchase of an apartment in the city, while the last check of the Cthulhu-themed campaign saw them in a realm of space-time beyond rules, pleading with some former elder god not to void them into the paper shredder of madness beyond time. Over the break, I'm helping a student DM planning to run a Ravenloft campaign through the spring. Golly, it sounds like you're having a good time. Wish I was there. Wish I could look in. Speaking of Beyond, one of the founders and main designers of D&D Beyond also started a company called Demiplane. It's basically the same functionality, but for many other game systems. It's pretty neat, but if you already have physical books and or PDFs, it's really hard to justify sinking the cost into the same material locked into a website. Yeah, that's if you got the books. And that brings up an interesting topic, and that's what do you have online and what do you use online? Um, it's a prediction. I'm not the only person to predict this, but I see the WotC Hasbro version of D&D going into a digital model that will have a gazillion ways to suck money out of the players with microtransactions. Microtransactions. Okay, 20 new clerical spells and you're a cleric. You can have them for $4.99 or $3.99, whatever. Now, I'm not saying that, I know about microtransactions. I played 2 online games, one of which I started when I went into chemotherapy many years ago. And, occasionally I might spend $10 a month. And that's generally on a gig to get more gems because gems are the prime currency. But, for me, it's worth it because of what I use them for and how I use them. And it gets me better stuff. And that's what they do. And I play a shipping game that's the same way. Sometimes I pay $9.99 and to facilitate buying a ship I want and getting some bonuses during that month. Once in a while on that one. But that's what'll happen. You'll be able to buy grab bags of magical weapons and spell books and character classes. And if you've already got them in the book, you don't need them. And if you don't, and all your material's digital, well, there you go. You just add it to your library. I think, and I'm not the only one, Don Samora at Wizard Tower Games shares this, and I think Eric Tenkar has said similar that the future will be microtransactions. Everything will be online, and you'll pay, and you'll pay, and you'll pay, and you'll pay. And at the end of the year, you'll realize you paid more in those microtransactions than if you'd bought the book set. But hey, it's a valid business model. There's a bunch of games out there now working on the same thing. Anyway, I got off track there a little bit. Yeah, the point of if you've already got it, you don't need it. Well, I think the new iteration of D&D Beyond, or not Beyond, whatever the hell they're going to call it, Aurora. Anyway, I think I believe that's what you'll see, and you'll have to, if the game company completely revises the combat system, well, you'll have to shell out money to get the new one. If they put out a grimoire of 40 new spells, well, as a DM, you got to know what they are, and if you're a player and you want them, you got to know what they are. That's a business model. We'll see how long it works. All right, where were we? Oh, I missed this cut. Twisting around. Oh, well, I picked up the wrong page. Oh, that explains a lot. Okay. Sorry about this. I had apparently left something in the drawer or the trough of the printer and picked it up too. Okay. Non-game question, but kind of a game question. What's your favorite warplane? Well, define the period. If it's World War I, it would have to be the SE-5A or one of the later Sopwiths. I can never keep their numbers apart. But Second World War, for clean lines, it'd be the Messerschmitt, or could be the P-51, though I think the Spitfire Supermarine has a classic look that I really like, and their wide paddle wings are certainly different. Now, if we're going up into the jet age, well, I have a favorite, and that's the, and you probably can't even get a kit of it, and that's the Grumman A6A. Well, actually, we flew Bs. Intruder, subsonic, big, looks like a guppy with a proboscis. Anyway, he wants a model to build for Christmas, and I'm thinking of going with the classic P-51. It is a classic. It's relatively easy to build. Most of the kits are not full of little fiddly bits, and can't go wrong. However, my heart is in World War I with the kites, and probably explains why one of my favorite board games of all time is Fight in the Skies, also known as Dawn Patrol. Okay, that's that page. All right, how'd that happen? Anyway, all right. Question: have I ever thought about publishing a memoir of my time at TSR? You're the last of the old guard, so to speak. I'm aware of that fact. The only one that was even there in the first few years that's still alive is Tom Wom. He came in after I was there, but he was there in that magical band in the first 4 or 5 years. And as a history buff yourself, you know how immensely valuable and important eyewitness accounts can be. You really got to go to the Dragon's Foot forums. I've got a locked forum that's like 180 some pages long, and there is so much history there because I was a novelty when I resurrected from nowhere back then. I'd been out of the hobby for 20 years, and all of a sudden, oh, he's not dead. He's not a missionary. He's not an assassin. Some great stories went around when I dropped out of the hobby. The best one was that I'd been a contact killer for the National Security Council, knocking off drug lords, and in my overwhelming fits of remorse, I joined a monastery up in the North Woods and taken a vow of silence. Yeah, like that had happened. I figure you already have a head start with some of the stories you've told and retold here and elsewhere. Dorks of Yore comes to mind. Oh yeah, there's an hour and a half. Go listen to that. All it would take is to beat it into a readable shape. You say like that, you have no idea how little desire I have to go back and reorganize all those things that I've said about various mysteries and put them in a chronological order. Man, somebody else can do that, and I'm not important enough that I don't think anybody's going to bother. So it's you got to hunt. Let's see. And with assistance with one of the great gaming historians out there like Shannon Applecline, to get the timeline right, I think that the end result would be a compelling read. At least it would be for a second-generation D&E grog like me. I'd definitely pay to read it. Well, I'm serious. Go to Dragon's Foot. Join Dragon's Foot. It's a forum. Trying to remember the address. It's not dragonsfoot.com, but put Dragon's Foot into the search bar and it'll pop up. Question: did Gary still has his version of the Jester, Mountebank, Mystic, or Savant after he parted ways with TSR? Or did they retain the rights to them and most likely trashed them? I couldn't tell you. Maybe a person who might know reliably would be Chris Clark from Inner City Games, because he worked extensively with Gary after Gary left TSR. So he might know. I don't. If it hadn't been published formally, well, they couldn't have had it. If it was something he was still working on, there again, I'm not familiar with the timeline or any of that, so I couldn't really give you a reasonable answer. What was left out of the first edition when it was first printed that you wish had been added? A class, rules, a spell? Surely everything you and Gary worked on didn't make the final cut. Well, actually it did, because that's what Gary and I worked on, the final cut. That's why we literally cut up the little brown books, and I think 8 or 9 complete sets were trashed. Now they're worth $8,000 a piece. Who knows? But that's what we did. Okay, this is going in AD&D, this is going in beginners, this is going out, because it wasn't good enough to get in. I can't think of a single spell that I wanted, because that wasn't really my purview, was not writing up spells. Not at this point. I didn't do this stuff anymore. All I did was argue about Magic Missile, but it wasn't my charge to create this stuff. We might have sat in there and said, okay, what kind of spells don't we have? And I happened to, when I was in Carbondale, I happened to have a very creative bunch of people that made up dozens of spells, and I let them research them and spend money on them, and so probably some of those, which ones, I have no idea. Don't ask me next week. I have no way of knowing this far down the road. But that's what we did. So is there anything left out? No. It wasn't anything to leave out. It was how do we build this golem, however you pronounce it. Until the movie, I used to call them golems, but now they're golems. So anyway, we made up the list of ingredients to build these 2 golems, these 2 mechanical things. This is what goes into it. This is what it's comprised of. This is what goes into this. This is what will comprise it. So, no, I'm flat out on all aspects of that question, no. I must say I'd listen to your ideas for seafaring hooks for hours. Well, it's probably, I have a naval connection. My dad was a CV. I went into the Navy, though I was in naval aviation. I'm not a salt. I didn't bounce around in a destroyer in high seas. But I've noticed that a lot of turn-based strategy games that I've played over the years, if it had a naval aspect, I used the hell out of it and was successful with it. I don't think, Civilization, if you can get a Navy built before the opponents, you will not only rule the seas, you will rule the land as well eventually. Not every game designer allowed for that possibility, unless it's just so certain that if you own the seas, you own the land. I don't know. The U.S. Navy claims that the oceans are theirs, and I don't know anybody that will dispute them yet. Someone responded to this and said, thanks for the Pirate Borg recommendation from the other week. My son and I are eagerly awaiting a copy to see how we fare on the high seas. Great. I'm all for playing in different environments. I've written adventures that are underwater. I've written adventures that require levitating in the air for prolonged periods of time. Floating around, I like challenging the players by putting them in an environment that they're not comfortable or experienced in. And there's a learning process there, and if they learn it, fine, now they can be comfortable. If they don't, well, hilarious results ensue. Memorial Tombs by Ernie Gygax. Any insight into that dungeon series? I'm still assuming you were still around when the hobby store was running it. I'm not sure about that. I know that the hobby shop bought this amazing diorama. It was enormous. And we put it in the window at the hobby shop because it had all these rooms that were, potentially shit was happening in. And if that was the beginning, I don't know. At this time, the hobby shop was down in the old hotel. Most of the TSR offices were down above the hobby shop, downtown on the main drag corner. And I was pretty much on my own in the gray house, 726 Williams, I think it was. No, that was Gary's. Anyway, I was and then later on, the upstairs was used as an apartment for incoming hires, to somewhere to stay until they found a place. They were running stuff down there, I know, but I really wasn't involved with it at that point. Now, I don't know. I think Memorial Tombs and the Dungeon Hobby Shop Dungeon, or whatever that thing was that got kickstarted and then done late. I think that's all the same thing. I think. Again, I wasn't involved in the creation of it. I wasn't involved in the kickstarting of it. And I sincerely doubt that I played in any aspects of it. That was much too late in my tenure there, during my time there. And I know that the Hobby Shop Museum Dungeon, or whatever I can't even remember what they call it now, was over a year late. There's a weird, twisted story behind it. No, I'm not going into it now or later. Somebody came in and just 3 days ago and said, "Am I too late to see the weekly whining by the non-gamer from North Carolina? Did his whining post get taken down already? A pity." Well, that post was put down. It was probably one of his toadies that wrote it, because there was more than 3 words before there was a mistake. It was actually fairly well written, but it was full of lies and insinuations, and there's my answer to that. Let me put that in profile. Make sure it was which finger. This guy is going to be so broke by the time all this shit falls apart on his head that a good metaphor for him would be fresh squeezed chitlins. That's what he's going to look like. He's going to look like a freshly cleaned pig intestine. There ain't going to be nothing inside. There's going to... This is one of the classic blunders, not just in gaming, but in jurisprudence. It's one of his flunkies. Now, listen up. Those of you who are my Patreon supporters, I finally come up with as you know, we've been trying to figure out to do something different. And, to recognize your support. And trying to get enough of you guys together at one time is like trying to herd cats. So I've decided that as of the first of the year, I'll pick a day of the month, and I will reserve it for a Wheel of Blame game, open only to the Patreon supporters, which means the first 7 that can fill the slots on that day, that time, etc., get to play. And the next month, anybody else that wants to play that didn't get to play in the first one will have first dibs, and we'll do it again. I have racked my brain trying to figure out a way to thank you guys. And with the difficulty of coordination, the only thing I can do is, okay, this is what I'll do on this day each month. And if I can't get 5 people that can make it, I'm not going to do it, because the Wheel of Blame is the game that I run online, that I charge money for otherwise. And it works best with a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 7 and occasionally 8 players. So we'll shoot at that 5 to 7 slot. If we can get 5 to 7, whippy, we're all going to play. I've explained it often enough, and if I haven't, when the lucky winners win, we'll get out the explanation again. Okay? And there's going to be a special announcement, another little film that another little film, Jesus, old, another little video that I shot announcing a little Christmas present for those who wish to partake of it. Now, I'm making this on the night of the solstice. Between now and the next time I make one, the New Year, or not the New Year, the Yuletide, Christmas, will have passed. Tomorrow night, we're going to go see the Cirque du Soleil touring unit that's going around doing a Christmas-themed show. We're going to go see that downtown tomorrow at the Aronoff. And you will have sat around your trees, those of you who celebrate Christmas, or, slaughtered a pig in the backyard for those of you who are more earth and spirit-oriented. I joke, of course. And so I hope that between now and the next time, you have a great holiday. For those of you who might be sons of David or daughters of Ruth, I was told by my foot doctor that it's not inappropriate to wish you a belated, blessed Hanukkah. So, until then, ho, 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 from my cellar, do we being Wizard Tower Games and I, have a Christmas present for you. I know it's a little close, so this is a present that you can cash in on between now and midnight on December 31st. The present is that we've decided we're going to drop the price of the Lost Adventures. Now, anybody that's already got one, already committed to one, we will refund the difference upon fulfillment. So we're not going to hose those of you who got in early and showed great confidence in us. But we thought, well, what the hell, it's a tough year. Money's tight. Let's do what we can. So from now till December 31st, we're knocking $20 off the top of the Lost Adventures. We're selling it for $75. Price will go back after the first of the year. It is the same limited edition. They're all been signed. God knows I've signed all those all those book plates. So it's our present to you. A little extra savings. Again, for those of you who have already committed, you'll be refunded upon fulfillment. I'm going to have all those little $20 checks that are going to go inside the front of the books, or whatever we do. But anyway, that's our present to you until the 31st. I think you're going to really enjoy this book. Besides the two very fun to play, old schoolish, fairly lethal if you're not careful adventures. There's a bunch of new monsters. There's a few actual classes, I guess. I guess they're classes that we're introducing. These are all part of the Wizard Tower Games world setting, and it's all color. It's huge. Check it out, Wizard Tower Games. There'll be a link at the end of this, and there'll be a link at the end of this week's Curmudgeon. So, ho, 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 go on over to Wizard Tower Games and make yourself a Merry Christmas. So you'll have to wait a while to get it, but just think of how much fun it'll be when it gets there. You go, oh yeah, Christmas. Anyway. Thanks for listening. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Called it Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.